Hello, Year 11s. So I've decided to do a video just to kind of wrap up what I've seen in terms of the reaction to the AQA Combined Science Physics Paper 1 um, today, and also to kind of take in everything that I've seen and heard about the paper 1s and do a prediction about the paper 2s. So before I go any further, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video so that this channel can continue to grow. I really do appreciate it. It has been quite a fun journey doing these series of videos, and actually I think it's definitely worthwhile in terms of saving me repeating myself for all my students. I can just point you to a really handy resource on YouTube, which is the Science Revision Coach. So, just a quick summary. I've only just been able to see the chemistry papers today, and obviously heard from students who did the physics paper this afternoon. And one of the things that I can see is that there is a lot of application. Now, I have looked at some of the comments online, and I have noticed that a lot of the memes that I've seen are that it appears that a lot of the topics that AQA said you shouldn't or wouldn't be in the paper were in the paper. Now, you've got to be really savvy with the information they've given you. They cannot give it to you on a plate, literally. So they're trying to be explicit, but remember there are lots of areas within the specification that they're not compartmented off. They're not discrete topics. There are certain things that are coming up in other areas, and they're application questions, AO2, assessment objective 2 skills. So they are expecting you to apply your knowledge. So that's the first thing. Second thing is I did predict that there will be a lot of calculations and expectations of manipulating those calculations in the physics paper, given that they were giving you the equations. So that, I think, is not a surprise. All the topics I have covered in terms of the run-up to the chemistry paper 1 exam, I had covered in my videos in the Revise With Me series, and also with the exam technique series, the practice questions. So if you follow the videos that I'm showing you, you're definitely going to get some support that will help you, because remember, especially with the exam technique playlist, those are past paper questions that I'm going through with you, and if you do them over and over, you will notice a pattern, and therefore that will help you to kind of access some of the AO2 application type questions that AQA are giving you, and that's what I saw a lot of in the chemistry paper. The other thing that I wanted to say was, based on what we have seen in paper 1s, the general feeling from the students was biology was a gift, chemistry was the devil, and physics paper 1 seems to be all right. Okay, now with paper 2s, I'm going to strongly advise you with the physics, given that they're giving you the equations. I'm expecting you guys to really pay attention to, just like with physics paper 1, pay attention to things like significant figures. Make sure you round up appropriately. Make sure that you convert units appropriately, or check that units are in the right, or measurements are in the right units for that particular equation, because that's where they're going to try and sort and discriminate between the more able and the less able, or if you like, the grades. So check that in particular, the conversion of correct units. Make sure you understand mathematical techniques like standard form, how to calculate percentages, how to draw graphs, how to decide what type of line of best fit you need to draw. Now, I have deliberately not tried to do a lot of graph-based drawing questions. Graph interpretation questions I've given on my exam technique playlist, but I have avoided graph drawing type questions because it's just hard to do that on the screen with a graphics tablet. And obviously it's a lot easier if you can print them off and do them yourself, but just bear that in mind. So make sure you know how to draw a graph, how to plot the points, how to draw line of best fit. And I'm seeing that in the exams that I'm marking as well, that they are expecting you to do mathematical skills. The other thing that I think that you need to focus on is some of the other how science works skills. So there were questions related to for example, what was that question about? Questions about uncertainty, resolutions. So make sure you know what these terms mean. Make sure you know what all those key how science works terms are. And I'm going to put a list of some of those key terms on the Science Revision Coach website. I'll do that at some point this weekend. The other thing that I think that you need to look out for in terms of predictions are, and what I thought was quite interesting, and I can see why students would find it difficult, is there was a 6-marker question in the chemistry paper, the required practical for temperature change, but it seemed to be in combination with reactivity series, which is a really clever question that really will discriminate between the higher level grades and the lower level grades. But that's the kind of thing that they're going to do to try and make sure they get a range of grades. So you've got to really use the exam technique approach that I keep banging on about. That is what is going to help you. That is what I used when I went through those papers, when I looked through them, and I could see, oh yeah, this is a question that they're trying to trip kids over, but you have to, deep read the question, deep read the blurb of the question, the information they've given you. One of the questions that I know made myself and some of my colleagues really think was a question on, what was it? Chlorine and oxygen. And even I had to think twice. But then I reread the question again. And when I reread the question again, I just had to follow the information that they'd given me and not come in with my assumed ideas. And I was able to answer the question, I believe. Obviously, I haven't seen the mark scheme, but it's little things like that. So they are trying to, that would possibly be the grade 8 or 9 question that's going to help sort those students out. So you really need to, that was on the higher paper, by the way, just in case any foundation students are thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, there are going to be some questions like that, but really all the questions do cover the specification. They have checked them. When I read them again, all of those questions in the chemistry paper ones, foundation and higher, they are all in the spec. They are doable. They do expect you to use all the skills, all the knowledge that they mentioned well. And remember, chemistry, to be fair, there was no topic that they said was not going to be assessed, so it was pretty much everything anyway, which makes sense because they want you to have a good grounding to get into level 3 courses in September if you're trying to do chemistry at that level. So just a basic summary of the predictions. I think that you're going to have to make sure that you're really up on your math skills, that you know how to convert units, round up to appropriate number of significant figures, use standard form, make sure that you know how to convert units to the appropriate units for the equations. And for higher tier students in particular, you also need to know how to rearrange equations. I suspect they'll do that a lot. So that'll be the predictions for calculations in general, but specifically for the physics, because they're giving you the equations. Definitely expect you to rearrange equations for higher tier. The other prediction I would have is they're going to try and do a lot of application questions. Obviously, they are focusing on the topics that they said will definitely be assessed, or that there'll be a main focus on in the paper. The topics that they said will not come up. Remember, they're not discrete compartmentalized topics. So if, for example, in biology, I can't remember which one of them says they're not doing a work on, if I can remember now, or chemistry is on my mind at the moment. In one of the papers, they're saying you don't have to know about, no, actually biology, nothing to do with, I think it was cycles. That doesn't mean that you have to have no knowledge at all about how certain things interact and are recycled. You just need to be aware. I mean, your key stage 3 knowledge on cycles should still be relevant. So the main thing is to remember is to focus on those topics that they said will be the main assessment points. Don't ignore the ones that were not mentioned, because they could be related. And then the ones that they're not focusing on, don't worry so much. And even if you think, oh, this has come up when I haven't revised it, how many marks is it 1 mark? If it's 1 mark, don't worry about it. Really don't stress about it. Focus on the questions that you do know and take your time. And I think the biggest takeaway is apart from that there's going to be application questions, the biggest takeaway is you have to take your time to read the questions. Now, I'm marking exams at the moment for a different exam board from what I teach. I'm not going to say which exam board, but what I will say is this. I'm noticing the students that highlight, underline keywords in the blurb invariably get the marks because they're taking their time to read the information and therefore they're spotting the clues. So that 4-step exam approach that I have kept going on about in the exam technique playlist that I have on my channel is really going to help you. If you get into that habit of reading the question, deep reading it, so you read it the first time, you read it again and annotate and highlight, and then you start to answer the question. So you don't just start answering the question straight away. You've got to think, read and think. Why are they asking you this? Why is this clue, this bit of information here, is it relevant to the question? It must be. They've put it there for a reason. How does the previous question support you, or the previous question's answer support you with the next question? How does that help? These are all the things you need to be thinking about when you're answering such questions. How much time are you spending on each question? Is it adequate time for the question? So the first thing you need to look at almost is how many marks is it? If it's 5 marks, I shouldn't spend more than 5 minutes. If you haven't got a basic watch, get one so that you can actually monitor how much time you're spending on each question. And if you're spending far too much time, just stop and move on to the next question so that you don't lose time in the exam. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say about what I've seen in the paper so far and my predictions for the paper 2s in the AQA Combined Science trilogy course. And again, I will wish you, well, actually, before I do that, can you please subscribe, like, and share? And then I'll wish you good luck and say goodbye.